Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne speaking, and this is a teaching what a false prophet is not. Many people saw prophecies by known prophets about a red tsunami coming to America in the midterm elections. I was one of the people who felt that the Lord said that Donald Trump was going to win seats in both houses in the midterm elections, and I was wrong. And it's very humbling to be wrong. It's very humbling to feel that you heard from the Spirit of God and that you're wrong. And quite a number of prophets prophesied the same thing and were seen to be wrong. A prophecy in New Testament times being wrong does not qualify a person to be a false prophet these days. Either does a prophet sharing something that is a different theology or different understanding to what you have about life and about the Christian faith. So if a prophet is sharing that you can lose your salvation, that you can become disqualified in the Christian race, and you're a person who believes in once saved, always saved, just because the prophet disagrees with you in what they teach does not mean that the prophet is a false prophet. A false prophet is typically someone who leads you away from the one true God. So if a false prophet was building a following in such a way that he became God and he led people to follow after him, if he's built a following in such a way that people are always listening to him and he's almost receiving their worship, and that could be in a position where he's taken the glory of God, and he may have entered into being a false prophet. So biblically, in the Old Testament, it spoke of prophets leading people astray, leading them to serve another god. You can have things wrong. Jesus spoke about false prophets. A false prophet could lead you to serve the world and its lusts. A false prophet could teach you to serve money and to make money your God. Anyone that's leading you to serve something else other than the one true God would qualify to be a false prophet. But if someone is teaching a doctrine that you don't agree with or you don't believe in, that doesn't necessarily make them a false prophet. There's many people on the internet that see teachings of prophets that they feel aren't biblical, or they feel disagree with what they believe, and that some of these heresy hunters will name these people and create websites and blog sites declaring that these people are false prophets. And people who do this have an innumerable numbers of scriptures, many scriptures to support what they're saying that the prophet is unbiblical. Many people claim, the Old Testament claim that says if a prophet gets something wrong, he's not to believed in, not to be believed in and followed anymore. And I'm the first to admit not only is the midterm election wrong, but I've done personal prophecies that were wrong, and I was misled, and the people were able to tell me that I missed it. So I just want to get that out there. Of course, if a prophet is teaching this prosperity doctrine that you give to him and the Lord will give you 10 times as much, or you give to him and the Lord is going to give you 100-fold return. These prophets are covetous and going after money, and this is something that can lead them into a snare, like the Apostle Paul says, the love of money is the cause of all kinds of evil. And he doesn't say every kind of evil, but the love of money can be a snare and can drown people into perdition, the Apostle Paul says. The Apostle Paul says also later in that chapter that to warn people who are wealthy that they should lay up their money and be giving and share with the poor, and for them to use their money to lay up a good foundation for the time to come. So the Apostle Paul gives advice to people who have money. So there's many factors that could be weighed in on that could cause a person to be teaching the wrong thing and for someone to be considered a false prophet. I know that there's people teaching a type of hyper grace now, or extreme grace, that teaches that you don't need to obey Jesus' commands, and they go as far to say that Jesus wasn't even preaching the gospel. The gospel of the kingdom came in after his resurrection, and therefore they say that you don't have to obey Jesus' commands. Jesus said 3 times in John 14 verse 15, John 14 verse 21, John 14 verse 23, and I think John 15 verse 10, he said, if you love me, you'll obey my commands. Jesus also said that anyone who teaches people not to obey his commands will be considered least in the kingdom of God. That's if they make it at all. So there's modern prosperity, there's modern grace teachers that are teaching you don't have to obey Jesus. They teach this principle that it's Jesus plus nothing. They consider obeying Jesus to be a doctrine of works, and imagine that. They mustn't call Jesus master. They mustn't consider Jesus as their master. So there's many wrong beliefs and there's wrong teachings, but to call someone a false prophet because they got a prophecy wrong is not right, and to call someone a false prophet because they disagree with what you believe is wrong also. So I hope that you can ponder on what I've said, and hope that you can post your comments down below in YouTube. God bless.